Well, damn, nice designer purse. How does someone like you afford
The
that?
same way anyone does, officer. I bought it.
You bought it? Huh, must have been some payday.
My payday, my work, my money, it's mine, fair and square.
Don't get slick with me. Proof receipt card something, now.
I'm not doing anything wrong. You're stopping me. for
Reason
no
is you don't look like you can afford it.
What you just heard wasn't routine. It was suspicion, dressed up as authority because a black woman dared to carry something expensive in public. The officer didn't stop her for a crime. He stopped her for a stereotype, and he pushed it until it became a threat. What he didn't know, what makes this moment explode, is that the woman he's humiliating is a judge. And this is the kind of mistake that doesn't end with an apology. It ends with footage, headlines, an $8 million lawsuit, and a career falling apart in real time. Her name is Judge Alana Whitaker, 43. She's a county circuit court judge with 8 years on the bench and 14 years in public service total, starting as an assistant prosecutor, then moving into the judiciary after building a reputation for being sharp, disciplined, and steady under pressure. She's overseen thousands of hearings and arraignments, handled hundreds of felony matters, and is known locally for keeping her courtroom efficient and holding everyone, attorneys included, to the same standards. In her county, her name carries real public trust. She signs warrants, sets bail, and makes decisions that change lives, exactly why what happened at that mall hit so hard. Officer Derek Malloy, 36, is a patrol officer with the Riverton Police Department, 10 years on the job, and a paper trail the department has spent years sanding down. Over the last 5 years, Malloy has racked up 14 citizen complaints, 6 for discourtesy, professional conduct, for 4 improper stops or searches, 3 for excessive force allegations, and 1 for biased policing language caught on a supervisor's review. Internal Affairs cleared him 10 times for insufficient evidence. 3 cases were labeled unfounded, and only 1 complaint was sustained, resulting in a 2-day suspension. That was later reduced to a written reprimand after the union grievance. On paper, the department calls it no pattern established. In practice, it's the same story, a problem officer repeatedly shielded by process. Until one stop finally lands in high definition, she exits the north entrance of Riverton Mall into the open-air walkway, the glass doors hissing shut behind her. The afternoon is bright and hard, shadows sharp on the pavement. She has a luxury designer purse on her left shoulder and a small shopping bag in her right hand, walking at a normal pace toward the curbside parking lanes. A marked patrol car rolls in from the service road along the storefronts, slow enough to feel intentional. It doesn't continue down the lane. It angles toward her and stops. The driver's door swings open before the car settles fully. The officer gets out fast, squared shoulders, hand hovering near his belt. He doesn't look around for a problem. He locks onto her and the purse. He closes the distance. The bodycam frame bobs with his steps. "Hold up, hey, stop right there," he says, loud and clipped. She stops and turns halfway. "Can I help you?" Her tone is controlled, not friendly, not panicked. The officer's gaze stays on the purse strap like it's the whole case. "Nice designer purse," he says, voice thick with sarcasm. "How's someone like you afford that?" That's the moment it becomes obvious what this is. No reported theft, no description broadcast, no victim pointing someone out. Just a black woman with something expensive and an officer treating it as grounds for suspicion. She keeps her posture steady, the same way anyone does. "Officer, I bought it." He steps closer anyway, forcing the space to shrink. "You bought it? Huh?" He scoffs, like he's already decided the answer is a lie. Must have been some payday. She adjusts the shopping bag in her right hand. Careful movements, no sudden gestures. "My payday, my work, my money. It's mine, fair and square." The officer doesn't accept the answer because acceptance was never the point. His hand rises toward his radio, then drops near his cuffs. "Okay, then prove it." He says double quotes receipt card. "Something, I'm not doing anything wrong," she replies. "I don't carry receipts around." His voice sharpens. "Don't get smart with me. Hands where I can see him." She raises her hands slightly, open palms, purse still on her shoulder. It's compliance, but cautious, the kind people use when they know how quickly a pointless stop can turn physical. "My hands are up," she says. "What is the reason you stopped me?" The officer angles to her side as if positioning her. The camera jolts with the movement. "Reason is you don't look like you can afford that," he says, loud enough for passers-by to hear. "Step back. This is racism in plain language," he's saying out loud, that her appearance and race are his justification. He's demanding she prove she deserves her own belongings. If she were white carrying the same purse, there's no stop, no interrogation, no public humiliation at the mall entrance. She takes a half step back to create distance, still keeping her hands visible. That's not a reason, she says, voice tightening. That's bias. The officer's tone drops into a threat. You want to argue with me? He snaps. Keep talking and I'll detain you for obstruction. Obstruction of what? She answers. You stop me because you don't like what I'm carrying. His hand goes toward the cuffs again. A small motion that changes the entire scene. He steps in closer, crowding her. Turn around, he orders. Hands behind your back. Now, people keep walking past like this is normal. A security guard near the entrance glances over without moving in. The judge holds her position, hands still up and visible, voice colder now. Don't touch me, she says. I'm a judge and you're on camera. The officer's breathing is loud in the mic. His stance stays squared, close enough to be intimidating. The situation suspended in that unstable second before force. A black public official is being treated like a suspect in front of strangers over a purse she legally owns, because the officer's assumption is that black success must be stolen and black refusal to be humiliated must be punished. He laughs, an actual laugh, and it's caught cleanly by the bodycam mic. A judge, he repeats, louder, mocking. Sure you are. That laugh is the humiliation. It's not just disbelief, it's contempt. It's the officer deciding that a black woman's stated identity is automatically a lie. The same reflex that made him treat her purse as suspicious now makes him treat her job title as impossible. He goes back to the purse, like he can't let it go. Where'd you steal it? He asks. Which store? Who'd you take it from? I didn't steal anything, she replies. I bought it. You have no probable cause. You have no reasonable suspicion. And you know it. I'm not going to argue my identity with you, Judge Alana Whitaker says, voice level. Call your supervisor. He ignores that request the way he ignored everything else. No, he snaps. You don't get to order me around. He steps closer again, his hand drops near his cuffs. Turn around. Hands behind your back. She doesn't move. She keeps her hands visible, open palms, because she understands exactly how cops like this turn a small motion into an excuse. Her tone tightens, but it stays controlled. You are not detaining me based on facts, she says. You're detaining me because I'm black and you assume I'm a criminal. He barks a laugh. Here we go. Because I'm black, he says, contemptuous. That line again. Judge Whitaker doesn't raise her voice. She changes tactics. Fine, she says. If you don't believe me, verify it. Run my name. Run my plate. He snaps. Anybody can say anything, trying to keep control of the moment. He glances around, then back at her, as if the audience matters now. He wants to look like he's in charge. She holds. Steady. My name is Alana Whitaker, County Circuit Court. If you are a police officer, you know exactly what to do next. He stares at her for a beat like he's weighing whether to push through with cuffs anyway. Then he chooses the safer move, not backing down, but checking. He turns slightly, shoulders tight, and brings his radio up. Dispatch, he says, fast and irritated. Run a name, Alana Whitaker, and I need a plate check. The air shifts. You can hear it in the pause after he speaks. This is the moment. Where his certainty depends on whether the system confirms her. The judge stands in frame, still, hands visible, purse strap on her shoulder. The picture of someone who knows the law and knows she's being targeted anyway. Copy, dispatch crackles back. Stand by. He keeps his eyes on her while waiting, like waiting itself is a form of control. Then he goes back to intimidation, filling the silence with threats. If this comes back fake, he says, you're going to jail. Understand me? Judge Whitaker doesn't flinch. If it comes back real, she replies, you're going to wish you had walked away. Dispatch returns. The radio crackles. Unit 12, name returns. Alana Whitaker is a county circuit court judge. Plate returns registered to Alana Whitaker. Confirmed. There's a clean second of silence where his body doesn't know what to do. His shoulders stiffen. His jaw tightens. The bravado drains into embarrassment, then hardens into resentment. He tries to recover authority by reframing it as a normal check. All right, he mutters, forcing his voice into a neutral tone that doesn't match what came before. So you're a judge. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't acknowledge the accusation. He doesn't say ma'am. He just acts like he wasn't seconds away from putting her in cuffs. Judge Whitaker doesn't let him rewrite what happened. You threatened to arrest me, she says, crisp and audible, because you didn't believe a black woman could own a designer purse. You treated me like a suspect without cause. He lifts a hand, impatient, trying to shut it down. Okay, move along. But the humiliation is already locked in. Not hers, his, because now it's documented. He mocked the judge's identity, accused her of theft with zero basis, and used the threat of detention to force compliance. Judge Alana Whitaker doesn't leave in silence. She turns slightly so the bodycam catches her face clearly and speaks like she's making a record, not having a conversation. I want your name and badge number, she says. He bristles. You got my name on the uniform. I want you to say it, she replies, out loud, for the camera. He hesitates, then mutters it, irritated. Officer Derek Malloy. Badge number, she adds. He exhales hard, like compliance is an insult. He gives it. She repeats it back calmly, confirming it for the recording. Then she does what most victims of this treatment can't do in the moment. She moves immediately, professionally, and with jurisdiction on her side. She pulls her phone out slowly and steps a few feet away, still visible in frame. I'm calling your supervisor, she says. Now, Malloy snaps, Don't start acting like you run things here. I do run a courtroom, she answers. And I'm not the one who just abused authority in public. She calls the department's non-emergency number and asks for a watch commander by name. The officer tries to interrupt, half step forward, hand lifting like he wants to control the call. Give me the phone, he says. No, she replies, flat. Back up. Within minutes, a supervisor vehicle arrives at the curb. Sergeant Marlene Ruiz, mid-40s, steps out with the posture of someone who knows this is going to be reviewed. She doesn't start with casual small talk. She starts by looking at Malloy. What happened? Ruiz asks. Malloy talks fast, trying to preempt the story. She was being uncooperative. I had reasonable suspicion. Ruiz cuts him off. Reasonable suspicion of what? He glances toward the purse again, still stuck on the original bias. Possible theft. She had a high-end bag and Ruiz's face tightens. So you stopped her because of a purse. It didn't add up. Malloy insists. She claims she was a judge. Ruiz looks at Whitaker. Judge Whitaker, are you okay? I'm fine, Whitaker says. But what your officer did is not fine. He threatened to cuff me because he didn't believe I could legally own my property. He mocked my identity. He accused me of theft with no report, no dispatch alert, no complainant. Ruiz turns back to Malloy. Did you have a call for service? A victim? Malloy hesitates. No, Ruiz repeats, firm. So you had nothing, and you escalated anyway. Ruiz reaches to her own radio. Dispatch, put a hold on Unit 12, she says. I need his body cam preserved immediately. Flag this incident for internal affairs intake. Malloy's head snaps. Sarge, come on. Ruiz doesn't look at him. Your camera stays on, she says. And you don't speak to her again. Security joins them near the entrance, and Ruiz asks for camera coverage. I need all footage from the north entrance and walkway, she says. From 5 minutes before contact until now. The mall security manager nods quickly. We have it. Ruiz's focus shifts from discipline to liability, because that's what this is now. A stop with no legal basis. A threat of detention. A public official targeted. And, most importantly, a pattern that the department has already been warned about. She pulls out a small notepad. Judge, I'm going to document your statement, she says, and I'm instructing you on the complaint process. But I'm also telling you, this is going to be reviewed above my level. Whitaker nods once. Good, she says, because I'm not filing a casual complaint. I'm initiating legal action. Ruiz pauses. Understood. Then Whitaker delivers the institutional failure in one sentence. Your department protected him, she says, still calm. That's why he felt comfortable doing this in front of witnesses. He's done this to black people before, and he expected the same cover. Ruiz doesn't argue. She doesn't deny the pattern. She looks at Malloy like she already knows there's a file. Back at the station, the turning point becomes formal. The watch commander pulls Malloy's recent stops. The supervisor pulls his complaint history. Internal affairs pulls prior investigations. Sustained or not. The legal unit is looped in within hours because the victim is a judge and the exposure is obvious. Unlawful detention threat, biased policing indicators, policy failure in supervision. At foreseeable harm, the deputy chief watches the clip in a conference room, not the edited version, the raw body cam with the laugh, the disbelief, the you people tone, the threat of cuffs. The room goes quiet for the same reason it always does in these cases, because there is no defense. That doesn't sound like racism. Judge Whitaker doesn't wait weeks to see what happens. She personally goes after him with the law. She files preservation letters the same day. She drafts a formal complaint with factual findings, not feelings. She requests records through the proper channels and prepares subpoenas. She contacts Civil Rights Counsel and makes it clear this won't be settled quietly within days. The story stops being an incident at the mall and becomes a legal event with names on documents. Judge Alana Whitaker's attorneys file a federal civil rights lawsuit, alleging unlawful detention threats, discrimination, and retaliation for asserting her rights, because the core fact is simple. She was targeted and escalated on nothing but blackness and a luxury purse, and the body cam proves it. The city tries the first instinct most departments try: minimize and isolate. A spokesperson calls it a misunderstanding during a field interview. That line lasts until lawyers obtain the raw body cam, the radio traffic, and the mall surveillance. The video doesn't show a misunderstanding. It shows an officer announcing suspicion without cause, dismissing her identity, and using obstruction as a weapon the moment she refused humiliation. In the early hearings, the city's council tries to frame it as reasonable caution. The judge's attorney shuts it down in plain terms. You didn't have a call for service, the attorney says. No complainant. No bolo. No dispatch alert. He stopped her because she's black and carrying a bag he decided she didn't deserve. That's racial profiling. The city attorney tries to interrupt, objection to characterization, but the video is already on the record. Internal Affairs opens a formal investigation, and that's where the second story begins, the one the department never wanted in public. Investigators pull Officer Derek Malloy's stops and complaints, and patterns surface fast, not because everyone was blind, but because the department had normalized it. They find repeated stops concentrated in the same zones: malls, gas stations, high-theft retail corridors. They find the same language repeated in reports: nervous, evasive, uncooperative, would not comply, terms that often appear when the only real noncompliance is a black person asking why they're being stopped. They find that his searches and detentions rarely produce contraband, but they regularly produce confrontation. And they find supervisors clearing incidents with the same two phrases: insufficient evidence and officer discretion. A commander reviewing the file says it out loud in a meeting that later ends up quoted in legal memos. He was fishing, over and over, and we let him. The lawsuit forces discovery, and discovery forces truth. The judge's team requests Malloy's complaint history, body cam audits, training records, and discipline outcomes. They request data on stop and search outcomes by race in his unit. They request prior civil claims, even those quietly settled. The city fights it, then loses key motions because the court finds the requested records relevant to bias and supervision failures. That's when the department's protective shell cracks. Depositions reveal that more than one supervisor had flagged Malloy as high risk informally, yet he stayed on patrol, kept proactive enforcement, and kept being defended. One supervisor admits what everyone already knows, but rarely says under oath: "We didn't want to start a discipline process that would get overturned." In other words, institutional protection. The city didn't just employ him, it insulated him. While the case moves, the city tries to salvage credibility by acting tough. Malloy is placed on administrative leave, then stripped of patrol duties. He's ordered to surrender his badge and firearm pending the outcome. He complains to his union rep, loud and indignant. "This is political," he says. "She's using her title." His own captain answers with the blunt reality: "No, you used your badge. The camera did the rest." The civil case doesn't take years because the evidence is to clean and the liability to obvious. The city's risk management unit looks at the video, the history, the supervisor failures, and the optics of a black judge being threatened with cuffs over a purse. And they do what cities do when they know a jury will be furious. They move toward settlement. The final agreement is $8 million. The breakdown matters because it shows what the city is really paying for, not just harm, but systemic failure. The settlement allocates $5,000 to $150, $0 to Judge Whitaker for civil rights damages and reputational harm, $2,150, 0 to attorney fees and litigation costs, and $600, 0 earmarked for policy compliance measures and independent monitoring tied to the decree. Language: the city does not admit wrongdoing in the press release. The check does. On the individual side, the consequences land hard. Malloy is terminated for policy violations, biased policing indicators, improper escalation, and conduct unbecoming. His union files a grievance, but the city holds because the video undercuts every defense. He applies for laterals at neighboring departments and runs into the same wall. Nobody wants the headline risk. His state certification board opens a decertification review, and even before a final decision, the practical result is the same. He's radioactive. A deputy chief says it plainly in a closed meeting that later gets leaked. This officer is done, not because the city got woke, but because he's a liability with a body cam. Supervisors don't escape either. Sergeant Ruiz is cleared. She intervened and preserved evidence, but the chain above her is scrutinized. A lieutenant who previously signed off on no pattern established findings is reassigned out of field supervision. The internal affairs commander is replaced. The department announces leadership changes, which is what institutions say when they can't deny they protected the wrong people. But the most important consequences are the systemic ones, the reforms that only happen when racism becomes expensive. The settlement requires policy, changes with deadlines, not vibes. Officers must document the specific basis for voluntary contacts that escalate into stops. Bodycam review frequency increases, with mandatory audit triggers for officers with repeated complaints. Obstruction arrests tied to speech are flagged for supervisor review. The department adopts a rule requiring a supervisor response on any stop where a citizen alleges bias on camera, and the city funds an independent auditor to review stop data and complaint outcomes for a fixed term. A community advocate, standing outside the press conference, says what the official statements won't. They didn't stop him because it was wrong. They stopped him because they got caught. Judge Whitaker speaks once, briefly, and refuses to let the narrative become a one-off. Her voice is controlled, but the message is direct. This didn't happen because I had a purse, she says. It happened because I'm black. The purse was just the excuse. This story is meant to generate awareness. It proves that bias doesn't need a crime to escalate. It only needs a stereotype and a badge. And black people are still forced to prove they belong in spaces they've earned. In 2025, black Americans were nearly 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white Americans. And 77% of black adults say black people are treated less fairly in dealing with the police than white people. So here is my question. How many times does this have to happen before we stop calling it a few bad apples and start calling it what it is, a system that rewards suspicion when the target is black? Why is I bought it treated like a confession instead of a fact? And why does accountability only show up when the victim has enough status to force it? Do you know any organizations that work to protect the rights of black people in America? Legal support groups, community safety initiatives, or civil rights coalitions? Share them in the comments. Let's support those working for justice and safety for all. Drop your thoughts below. Was this reasonable policing, or was it racial profiling caught on camera? Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.